Murdoch,
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Thank you, council. Everyone's present, Mayor.
All right, would you please stand for pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up is a consent agenda. Approve the minutes of the council meeting of June 2nd. And approve pay ordinance number 785. Anybody have any questions on either one?
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on it? Roll call.
Lane,
Yes.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried.
All right, next up, call of public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not listed on this agenda. The comments that are discussed under call of public may or may not be acted upon by the council during the meeting. There is a 4-minute time limit. Please stand or wait to be recognized by myself. State your name and address. Do we have anybody in the call of public? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Old business. That item we tabled from last meeting on the sewer service options. Did we just table it to this meeting, or?
No, I think this is remember
The Lexington Avenue
right,
issue?
Shane Lamb and.
Yeah, that
the
was
other
several
guys.
meetings ago.
Oh,
That must
okay.
be an old.
That's an old one, okay. I had that shoved in there, I thought it was something different. Okay, seeing that we had no old business, we'll move on to new business. Item 4A, discuss request from Dave Penny to vacate rights of way in the east bottom area.
Yes, council, I've been discussing this issue for a couple of months with Dave Penny. He owns the Penny Sand Plant off of Gardner Road, and he's struggled over the course of time with trespassers and vandals in the area, causing problems on some of those minimum access roads that we've established down there. I don't know if you remember, but 79th Street off of Gardner Road and then Corliss Road north of the railroad tracks, we designated, I think it's been more than 10 years, we designated them as minimum maintenance and low access roads. So there's gates over those roads. There is gravel pavement on those alignments, Corliss and 79th Street, but they're gated off. You can't get in without a key. The other rights of way that exist that Mr. Penny wants to vacate are actually, one is called Jarvis Pike Road, and it's way up toward the north end of Gardner Road. To my knowledge, there's never been an actual public road constructed in there, but it is used on occasion, I think mostly for farm equipment. It's passable in dry conditions. You can drive there if you really want to. Mr. Penny's requesting that we vacate Jarvis Pike Road, which is actually 2 segments. One runs east-west and one runs north and south. And also 79th Street between Corliss and Gardner Road, and then Corliss Road between the Burlington Northern Railroad and 79th Street. I wanted to have this discussion with council to get your feeling on it before Mr. Penny. He requested that we get some indication from the council before he takes the next step, which would involve engineering plans and construction of 75th Street, which he would dedicate to provide access to the one property owner who would need access if these other rights of way are vacated. There's 4 property owners in the area, Mr. Penny being one. The city of Olathe is another. and Zimmerman also owns property. And the last one is Teeger. And Teeger owns the property that's to the west end of the 75th Street alignment up against the river. He actually owns a couple tracks in there, and he would need 75th Street constructed to keep his access. Right now, he uses Corliss Road, that's the minimum access road, and he also uses the farm roads from the Jarvis Pike right of way. He's indicated that he's had some trespassing issues in the area. People know that the Jarvis Pike right of way is there, even though there's no road. So they'll take that, make use of that, and access his property to mushroom hunt or whatever they do down there. So he's on board with the plan. I haven't spoken directly with Zimmerman or the city of Olathe, but obviously that'd be next steps. I think the request is reasonable. We don't, obviously have never had any use, never been any public benefit as far as I'm aware of for Jarvis Pike Road. And then 79th Street and Corliss, we've not done any maintenance on them in more than 10 years. And they've been gated for that period of time. So if the council wants to proceed with this, there's a number of steps we'll have to take. Of course, with all vacations, we reach out to our franchise utility providers to make sure there's no utilities in these rights of way. We don't have any reason to believe there is. But we would do that. We'd also make sure that we get the consent of all the property owners in the area, make sure they're comfortable with the plan. And the big step would be we'd require the dedication of the new 75th Street, which would mean public improvement plans and construction of that street before we took acceptance of it. All that would have to be done, I think, procedurally before we call for public hearings to vacate the rights of way. So, wanted to just have this discussion with you. I'd like to answer any questions you might have about it. Mr. Penny couldn't make it tonight, so I told him I'd fill him in on how the discussion went.
Any questions?
For Daryl, I would just like to know Daryl's input on it from the Zimmerman property perspective.
Well, the Pike Road section is the only alignment that is on this side of the dike. It's been there since 1951 or 2. It hasn't been passable in any of that time. I mean, as far as any road maintenance. As a matter of fact, adjoining farmers farm it. But my question though, and I've talked to Dave, Dave's talked to me about this, and that's fine, but what will there be to prevent somebody from driving just like they've been doing? Is he gonna put up signage that says something, or city gonna put up signage, or?
I haven't had that discussion with him. I think he's less concerned about Pike Road than he is about 79th and Corliss, and obviously those gates are already there.
Yeah.
I think the concern I heard about the Pike access was that there are those who can get on the County Ames website and see that there's a road right-of-way there and have been taking advantage of that right-of-way being there to gain access to Teeger and Penny's property. And when they're told to beat it, their response is, "I'm here on the public right-of-way." That's really all I've heard about that, really. And so
It'd be
I don't know
tough to
that they're
gate
gonna-
it because there are no ditches along there, so it wouldn't do much good to put up a gate because they just drive around it.
It would just allow you to pursue a trespassing charge because
Right.
the right-of-way would no longer be there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did want to point out, Penny's has a special use permit to operate the sand dredging facility. And there is a provision in that special use permit for him to expand the existing dredging pit. I'll turn the light off here. I know it's hard to see, but this is the existing dredging pit. Here's Gardner Road, and then 79th Street is here. The use permit shows the expansion of this pit to the north into this area and here. And there's a condition or two in there about vacating 79th Street when that happens. And Penny's constructing this would be a 75th Street alignment. So it's within the terms of that special use permit. I think if push came to shove, there wouldn't be anything obligating us to vacate that right of way. You know, I'm not sure legally how that would play out, but it kind of has been in the, in that use permit, in the plans for the facility since that permit was granted back in the 80s, I believe. So I just wanted to point that out.
I guess we already have them gated off. They're not there for public access. We don't need to maintain the public right of way. And the other road is an unimproved road, and I don't think we have any, I don't see it being in our long-term plans to ever put public, improve public roads in that floodplain area. But I don't have an issue with vacating the right of way.
Did we get anything on for the help on the Gardner Road with all that truck traffic from his facility?
Yeah, that's another good point. The sand plant operation use permit, again, requires Penny's to maintain that section of Gardner Road from 83rd Street up to their north line of their facility, which is basically the 75th Street alignment is where that's defined.
I know that road's terrible.
It's
'cause I
terrible,
used it.
and Mr. Penny, they haven't operated the sand plant in 15 years. And for 15 years, they've been responsible for maintaining it. And it's a hard thing for Penny's, having not operated anything, to go and maintain this public road over time. That's, it's tough. And, I'm not saying compliance is an issue, because whenever we call, they go out and do something, but I've asked them, I think we would be open to amending the use permit in some nature that would have the city maintain that until he starts operations. But he is responsible, and they're the ones that do the work. There was a time, I think, several years ago, 5 to 10 years ago, where we helped him with some asphalt millings and built the road up. There was some city involvement there on a one-time basis. But beyond that, it's Penny's that does the maintenance. And I guess I would just say it's often not up to the standard that we would maintain it. It's maintained like a quarry access road rather than a public street.
He has no road maintainer, he just uses a big drag, so it's just flat.
Yeah.
Actually, a heavy rain, part of it just becomes a canal.
Yeah, it holds water. And we fixed that, we fixed that once 8 or 10 years ago, and it's back to nothing. And it's overly wide. I mean, it's really wide. There's a lot of area to maintain.
Are you just looking for consensus?
Yeah, I just kind of want a head nod on the process. In Mr. Penny's interest, I don't want him spending a bunch of money engineering plans and doing that unless, if there's any big red flags. We understand, and he might want some sort of an agreement or a memorandum of understanding with the city before he constructs 75th. But if everything's okay at this point, we'll proceed to the next steps and just keep you updated on where we are.
When he does the 75th Street, he turns that over to us, then we have to maintain it?
He's mentioned the desire to keep that also as a minimum access road. So it's possible not. We haven't had that discussion with him, but it does need to be a public right of way to maintain access for keep.
Well, so if he builds 75th Street, will that be to our specifications or
Yeah.
his?
Yeah, that's the intent. If he's got to provide the plans, the specifications, he'll install it. We'll handle it just like any other public improvement that's to be turned over to the city. And I think, based on our experience with Gardner Road, it's a little different. It's higher traffic. It just makes sense for the public entity to take care of the public road. It doesn't make sense to have this middleman
Right.
in there. It's not been working very well.
I have no problem.
Lauren,
I'm good with it. That's fine.
good? Ricky, okay?
All right, we'll proceed.
Okay,
Thank you.
yep. Okay, moving on. Item 4B, consider request from resident at 8145 WIA to vacate alley and transfer city property. Right?
Yes, council, this is based on another series of discussions I've had with the resident there at 8145 Wea, Jimmy Thomas. He's talked to me on several occasions over the last 6 months about his desire to expand a garden behind his property, and he sent me a letter that's attached to the staff report late last month, basically requesting that the city transfer to him the portion of alley right-of-way that's directly adjacent to his lot, and about 50 feet of the western 50 feet of city-owned parcel that the Westar substation sits on. That's his request in the most basic terms. His letter goes into his intent with the property. It's a pretty steep hillside. It's fully wooded. There's undergrowth. We haven't lifted a finger back there to maintain anything, to my knowledge, since I've been here. And his intent would be to kind of clear out what's there and plant a garden, maybe do some other things with that. So he requested to be put on the agenda, so I did. In considering the merits of the request, of course, the nuts and bolts, the mechanism, we'd have to think about. The alley vacation would require a public hearing. If we do want to transfer part of the property to him, I think it's appropriate to get some sort of a fair market value for that. Otherwise, you're giving city property without compensation. In other cases, we've gotten appraisals and tried to negotiate something close to the market value. All that aside, if we just look at the merits of whether or not it's a good idea, I've put on the staff report just a couple of things to consider when we're thinking about this. The first one being, I think it's been recognized for quite a while that the street department might not be in this location forever. So in that event, if we want to make the property available for redevelopment or sell the property in the future, it might be less attractive without this little portion of it. Another thing to consider is that with the alley vacation, it would be the only alley that we vacated north of 82nd Street, so it set a little bit of a precedent about vacating the rest of the alleys along there. I would say we don't know of any utilities in the corridor, but there is. Westar does have a significant overhead power line that runs along the north side of his property at 8145 Wea, but also these two, the alley parcel and the city parcel. I think the biggest concern for me would be just the long-term nature of the ownership of the property. Mr. Thomas seems very interested and willing and able to maintain it and make it beautiful, but he might not be there forever. And I don't know if the next owner will be as enthusiastic about maintaining an 18% grade on a hillside that goes down to an electric substation as he is. Property right now is a bit of a wildlife sanctuary. If you kind of look at what's there, there's ground cover and trees and stuff there. And it doesn't cause us any problems. There's no erosion, there's no big problems there yet. So I would, for those reasons, recommend against transferring the property, even if it were a fair market value transaction. And if you wanted to accommodate Mr. Thomas in some manner, I think we could consider maybe a lease, a year-to-year lease on the property, maybe something similar than we do for the agricultural properties around parks. And I haven't discussed that with Patrick at all, but I think it's a half step rather than just a no answer. But I think in this case, a no answer might be appropriate.
Was his intention to clear it at all, or just leave it the way it was?
No, he mentions in his letter that he would clear it and turn it into a fruit and herb garden, and it would be bird and hummingbird and butterfly insect sanctuary. He does mention a federal program where you can register a garden as some sort of a sanctuary, and that program's available to anybody that just wants to sign up for the thing. That's where it makes some recommendations about how do you provide sanctuaries for wildlife, and undergrowth and tree cover and those sorts of things that already exist on the site are prominent in those recommendations.
Mike, you said that, is there drainage? This is pretty steep down through there. Does that drainage drain down on if something changed in that corridor there, would that maybe put water back over toward these buildings on our property?
Yeah, everything drains primarily to the east and north. And so I don't think anything he did on this property would, I mean, I suppose he could, but it's not likely to drain toward our buildings. But there's not really that I could tell. It might be under the growth somewhere, but like there's not really a ditch or a channel or anything, just sheet drains down the side of the road. It's pretty steep. Pretty steep there. 18%.
I feel like it's in the city limits of DeSoto and Johnson County, so it has some monetary value of some kind. Now, I feel like if we were gonna do anything, we should contact Westar and see if they're interested in buying it, because it backs right up to them, doesn't it?
Yeah, they have the bulk of the lot. And I haven't talked to them. I don't know if they plan to keep that station or expand it or do away with it. I don't know. I let Mr. Thomas know we'd be discussing this tonight. Maybe he forgot. I think he intended to show up.
I'm not interested in giving it away. And I agree with Ron that I mean, I don't know what Westar's plans are, but if we grow, I would think they would need to increase the size of a substation at some point. I don't know if that's the right spot for it, but it could be.
Well, I'm like him, I'm not against giving it away. And I really think we should talk to Westar.
Well, if you want to, maybe we could table it tonight, what I'm hearing. Maybe we could table it, let me talk to Westar. Let me talk to Mr. Thomas about compensation for the site. And bring
Or
it back
lease
to-
arrangement?
Yeah, I did mention the lease, basically I mentioned that suggested lease, and he was asking how much would the lease be, and, you know, I didn't indicate a number, but I told him our other leases, we don't do those to generate cash revenue, we do those to keep the property maintained, more or less.
I just would be concerned about creating, I think you mentioned it in your report, creating an erosion problem where one doesn't exist now.
Yeah.
It's covered, it's stable, and it's not eroding, and when you start clearing undergrowth and changing what's going on, it may not happen while he owns it and maintains it or takes care of it, but the next guy may not. And their slope on 18% is gonna.
It's not gonna be there.
Yeah.
Is everybody okay with tabling it? I can bring it back, maybe Mr. Thomas could attend the next meeting.
We'll need a motion.
Well, I don't know, it sounds like all we're doing is complicating the situation. We just need to decide whether we wanna do something with it or not. And serves us no purpose to have anything done with it at this point.
Yeah, I don't, that's
So-
the plus side.
We mean getting rid of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't want to see.
so I don't see the point in dragging it out and just tabling it and having him come up here and tell us what he wants to do, and we go through this whole thing again.
I'm all for not doing that.
Do you want a motion? I mean, I would make a motion that you would inform Mr. Jimmy Thomas. Taylor Thomas. That we're not interested in parting with the property at this time.
I can do that.
I don't think that's the right way to handle it. Motion second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Lane,
Yes.
Murdock.
Yes.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Thank you, council. The motion carried.
All right, moving on, item 4C, consider temporary use of cereal malt beverage permits for Great American Bank Night on the Call.
Yes, Council, Sarah's here to answer any specifics you might have, but as far as I can tell, this is very much the same event as they've had, I think, 8 previous years. They're asking for a temporary use permit for Saturday, July 9th. It would also come with a noise permit, granting of a noise permit, and a special event alcohol cereal malt beverage permit. The fees have been paid on this. They're not asking for any waivers. I'll stop there, answer any questions you might have, maybe leave some time for Sarah if she wants to address the council, if you want to hear.
Any questions?
I don't, I'm ready to make a motion if everybody else is.
Yeah, we-
Get after it.
Okay.
so for it.
I said I was ready. I move we approve the special use permit for Night on the Call and the noise, including, can we do all three in one?
Sure.
Temporary noise, or temporary use permit, and the noise permits,
Special event.
and the special event permit, thank you,
Sure, I'm
or cereal malt beverage.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All right, seeing none, roll call.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Murdock,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried.
All right. Item 4D, consider 3 fireworks sales permit application. DeSoto United Methodist Church, Kathy Tillery, and the DeSoto DFW Post. Who's got that?
Well, I'll take it. Steve isn't here. He was leaving as I was coming in. He's been a long day here. Everything had been turned in and submitted, has been reviewed by Steve and by the district fire chief. Everything looks good to go. These people have applied in the past. Permit for the United Methodist Church with Pastor Jeff Prothrow, and also the one for the VFW do qualify for the waiver of the permit fee, and they would like to request the waiver of the permit fee. The second one, Kathy Tillery with Garrett's Worldwide Fireworks, Steve said did not qualify for the waiver of the fee. So if you choose to approve those and waive the fee, I would appreciate it if you would make it in individual motions.
I have one question, please.
Yes, sir?
It's to our attorney.
Okay.
When we did this, brought back fireworks, was it in that they had to apply a year before they were actually wanted the permits?
Yes, the application deadline is soon after 4th of July. So I'm assuming from reading Steve's memo that they applied way back when, and this, but it is in the ordinance, it says that just prior to the event, he has to go and approve the location.
I don't really it'll make any difference, but if it's in the ordinance and they didn't do it, then it's illegal, so we need to do away with that, I guess.
No, they
That
did do
part.
it, though.
Well, that's my, I mean, I'd like to get that clarification from Steve, but that's my assumption is that they made application before that deadline. Do you know, Lana, if
Yeah.
in fact they did?
He doesn't, we calendar it, and if they turn it in after that, he doesn't accept them.
Yeah.
They have to turn it in within the required time frame for the ordinance.
Okay, because that would have been, I mean,
A year ago.
Ron's right, that would have been just about a year ago.
Right.
Okay.
And we've kind of run into that last year when we had people coming to us and we went by that, but if it's in there and it's not really mandatory, I don't know why we did that, but we put it in there because I was on the council, so it was Rick when we brought that back, so.
The reason articulated by the applicants was that they have to buy, some of them, you know, they buy the stock themselves and they needed to know long in advance to buy the materials or at least put an order in for it, as opposed to, you know, being right up against the deadline. I don't know, Reverend, do you know anything about when the application was submitted?
It was almost immediately following the tent last year,
Okay, good.
and I know the previous year as well. My appointment year starts July 1, and my first day is when I had that request, hey, can you fill out the paperwork, we need to get it in. So I know at least from our end, and from the church, we try to be, do our due diligence to get it in when requested.
Okay.
My only question is, the second one, is that not the Boy Scouts, or is that, I mean?
They didn't file
They
as
didn't.
such, so Steve said that they did not, he just mentioned to me when he gave me this thing last week that they did not meet the nonprofit requirement.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I didn't question him further on it. I just was going on what he said.
Okay.
Motion?
Yeah, motion.
Make a motion, we approve the fireworks sales permit for the DeSoto Methodist Church and waive the $500 permit fee.
I second that motion.
I'll second that.
Too late.
Too late, Rick.
Too late.
You can second my second. Being here.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Lane,
Yes.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes?
Murdoch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried.
I'll make a motion, we approve the fireworks sale permit for Half Utility Garrett's Worldwide Fireworks.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion
And I'll
carried.
make a motion, we approve the fireworks sale permit for DeSoto VFW Post 6654 and waive the $500 permit fee.
I second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Lane,
Yes.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes?
Murdoch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried.
All right. Item 4E, consider ordinance extending building permit discount program.
Yes, Mayor, this program, as you know, has been ongoing. I'm not sure exactly how long, I'd say at least a year and a half, maybe close to
4 years.
4 years. Has it been 4? Wow, time flies. So, and we've been extending it each time, normally by 6 months. And so what you have before you is to extend the same discount program through January 6, 2017. Without the ordinance, it would expire July 22nd. And one of the reasons I brought this to your attention the last meeting, the meeting before, was Don Parr. I was visiting with him, and I know this program is critical to the project he's working on for the senior housing. So he was very supportive of, needs it for his project, so.
What's the ordinance number?
This will be ordinance 2401.
Anybody wanna discuss it, or I'm
No, it's been pretty beneficial to us.
Yeah.
I see no reason to stop it.
You okay, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2401, extending the temporary discount program for building permit fees.
I'll second the motion.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes?
Thank you, council. Motion carried.
Next up is item 4F, consider driveway apron replacements on Coronado Circle.
Yes, council, we discussed this quite a bit at the last council meeting, actually, I think probably the previous one before that, about what to do with these driveway approaches, because when we're finished with the Coronado Circle project, the elevation of the road's gonna go up, probably 4 to 6 inches in most areas. That brings about the need to transition back into existing driveways. The plan and our practice have been in the past to cut those driveways off and make that transition with asphalt. We've heard a significant negative opinion of that plan with the residents. We've since had discussions with all 6, and really only one says they're just fine with the asphalt, go ahead and do the asphalt. The others have either expressed strong opposition to the asphalt or mild opposition to the asphalt. So that being the case, I did solicit a couple of bids from concrete contractors in the area just to verify what the overall cost would be. And wanted to bring it back for a little discussion because I think in this case it's a little different than the ones we've done in the past for several reasons. And it might warrant a change in kind of philosophy about what we do on similar projects throughout town. And I think not necessarily in the context of having this particular issue that's boiling right now, but in a larger context of when we do similar projects in the future, this is the level of service that we think the residents expect, and this is the level of service that we think is appropriate to apply. So the difference here is, you know, the kind of the setting. If you just go out and look, the setting there on Coronado Circle is one of manicured lawns all the way up to the edge of the road. There isn't the typical rural section kind of ditch where there's a drop off and maybe there's weeds in the ditch, and that the city mows with a brush hog. This is one that people mow with their push mowers or riders all the way up to the edge of the street. These particular driveways were installed to the edge of the street, and they weren't set back at all, so that then we'd have to take out some concrete drives. All 6 of them are concrete. There aren't any asphalt drives there. And the drives that were there were in relatively good shape. There were some cracks in some of them, but they weren't spalling or in need of repair or replacement before. So I think those factors kind of combine to suggest that we might consider a change in approach on similar projects in the future. And if the council decides this is the direction we'll go, we will apply these to future projects on a basis of some judgment. You know, not everyone's going to be exactly like this, but you know, if they exhibit similar characteristics, we will replace in kind with in kind, just kind of as Mr. Greer had asked for at the last meeting. From a budgetary standpoint, there's still no money in the CIF. That hasn't changed. But there is some money in other general funds, one of them being the Community Development Department has $6,000 for miscellaneous contractual. We could use about half of that and be okay. And the rest could come from a couple of line items in the street department budget. One of them being miscellaneous contractual, another being street rock, those sorts of things. But the general fund, I think, would be just fine with the impact. We do only have 2 bids at this point. I'm waiting on another from Sunflower Paving. Rick mentioned to me Larry and Jeremy Towner, who are in town, so I want to reach out to them too. I hadn't thought of them before. Our purchasing policy indicates for projects of this nature to get 3 bids when possible. I don't think there's any reason we can't get 3 bids. So if the council wants to move forward in this direction, I just ask for a motion authorizing the administrator to approve the low bidder in amount not to exceed $79.23, which is the current low bid that we have, and then allow me to get the other couple of bids and move forward when we're ready. We will be paving Coronado Circle, probably not this week like we thought, but probably next week. So the need may arise to engage a contractor before the next council meeting. So I'll answer any questions you might have of this approach.
Well, I agree with the approach, Mike. I think if we need to replace with a like material. If we tear out good concrete, we need to replace with concrete. If it's gapped or rock, then we can go back with some asphalt. If it's asphalt, we can do asphalt back. So I think if we have that policy going in, then we'll have that in our estimates when we're putting the project budgets together.
Yeah.
It'll be where we want to be.
And what was the total on that
$79.23.
so far?
That's the lowest of the 2
Lowest
bids.
of the
We may get one lower.
Are you talking about the total Coronado project or?
How many driveways are we talking about?
6
Six
driveways.
driveways.
Yeah, 6.
Okay. And that's gonna cover the 6 driveways, or that's those driveways?
No, that's all 6. We have to do the tear out,
Yeah.
but that's all 6 drives.
That doesn't sound like a expensive endeavor.
Well, yeah, it's not the whole drives, we're
Yeah.
just doing, but Yeah, it's pretty.
I agree with Rick, you know, those people put concrete in there and take pretty good care of their property and want it to look nice. Since we're the ones tearing it out, we have to put it back to the white material, I think. Dan?
I agree, totally.
Ron?
I'm out, I can't vote on this.
Oh, you're part of it?
I have a son that's involved.
Oh, okay.
I don't care what you do, yeah, I think what needs to be done.
Hmm. Okay. You need a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we authorize the city administrator to sign a proposal to replace the driveways with concrete for an amount not to exceed $7,923.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Lane,
Yes.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Murdock,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Thank you, council. The motion carried.
Okay. Item 5, executive session. Do we have an executive session?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to ask for a 10-minute executive session under personnel and attorney-client and invite Mr. Press as interim city administrator.
Okay. Can we have a motion and include a 5-minute break?
Okay. I make a motion, we go into executive session beginning at 7:48 for 10 minutes for attorney-client and personnel matters, inviting the city administrator, Mr. Press.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
motion, we turn from executive session. Only issues of attorney-client personnel were discussed, no action was taken.
That's great.
Thanks.
Have a second on that?
Second?
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Okay. We're back in session. All right. Next up, advisory reports, city administrator.
He's good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sure, I've got two items, really. You have in front of you applications for the council vacancy. Today is the deadline that we established for these applications to come in. So I think we have, what, 6 or 7 in there for your consideration. I don't know that you necessarily want to act on that tonight since you've just received them.
Yeah.
But you might want to look them over and then decide what you want to do and consider it at your perhaps next meeting. Next item is the budget. We are about, I'd say 90% complete with our calculations. We are waiting for some figures that will tell us the up-to-date valuation of the community from the county, and that usually doesn't come in until the end of June. So we may have to submit a draft to you that doesn't have every number filled in because of that. We're putting the narratives and the explanations to each section of the budget like you're used to give you an indication of what has changed and why. We'll be working pretty diligently on it the rest of this week, and hopefully we can have a draft to each of you by the first of next week for your consideration. And that's all I have.
All right. Patrick?
Yes, council, I emailed you today. Jeff White did provide the cost-benefit analysis on the apartment project. That did go out to the school today, and so if you get any questions about that, that was emailed, Danny, so if you want to stop by my office, I can get that to you. But I guess sort of as expected. I mean, the analysis came out very, very negative as far as, it's if I'm remembering right, it looked like, at least to the school district, it was just under $1 million law in the negative for a 10-year period, and wasn't quite as much for the city, but still in the negative. And the state came out as a positive. I think it was like $200,000 for the state, but so that's out. We have noticed that up for a public hearing for July 7th, so that's when we'll have the public hearing. Jeff White will be here to talk about the cost-benefit analysis, and then you will have before you a resolution of intent to consider on moving forward on that project. And just so I don't forget, we need to make a motion to cancel the June 16th meeting because we won't have a quorum. So if we do that in public meeting, then we'll put a sign on the front of the door too. But
Well, I move we cancel the June 16th meeting.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And that's all I have.
All right. Mike?
Yeah, I have a few things. I think I've talked with everybody except Tim about the results of our line work, the raw line investigation under the river today. Unfortunately, they couldn't get into the line to really camera what they needed to do. So we know it's plugged with something, and we're working through some options on how to handle that, how to go about maintaining service while fixing the problem. So we'll be coming back with some recommendations on that in the future. But the reason I bring it up now is I did want to give kudos to Doug Smith and especially Marshall Goodnight. During the process, they've been working closely with the contractor that came in to do the work. There was some taps to be made on the raw main. coordination. They had to dig up the south side, make a tap there. There were some last-minute snafus in the works yesterday, and they were very complimentary of Marshall. I don't know if the council's aware, but Marshall was promoted to foreman in the water department after Dennis Smith left. And so I just wanted to bring it up that he's, I think he's reflecting very positively, at least on the group of people that were involved with this effort. He really did some above and beyond stuff the last couple days, so I wanted to recognize that. Another couple of things. Steve's been just buried in roofing permits, as you might expect. He said that he hasn't counted them today, but he thinks he's issued somewhere between 400 and 500 permits, and he thinks we're about halfway through. He thinks by the end we might have over 800 roof permits as a result of this. And so everyone has its administrative burden with it, and so he's got stacks of envelopes and things, and Nancy's kind of been feeling a burden on that too, because she's involved in the process too. So hopefully we get over the hump from that and things will settle down a little bit. But lots of roofing activity going on for the next several months at least. Also wanted to let you know we have a planning commission meeting next week, and the apartment complex that Patrick just talked about, it's coming for rezoning at that meeting. It's a week from tonight, rezoning to R3. We've heard from at least 3 neighbors negative feedback about that rezoning, so it will probably be one of those that has some folks here concerned about it, and probably some public discussion about that particular rezoning. And as you know, Planning Commission will make a recommendation. It does come to the council, so you'll see it. You'll see it likely at the, we know it'll be at the July 7th meeting of the council. And then lastly, our water tower construction, the big crane showed up yesterday, I think, or maybe today.
Yep.
They plan on lifting, so they've got the cone base that's set already. Tomorrow they plan on lifting the column, or the pedestal they call it, the column. That'll take at least tomorrow. Haven't heard exactly when they're gonna lift the bowl, because that's the big one. That's kind of might be exciting enough to even make a trip out and watch, so.
Video that movie, I believe. Mike.
Yeah, we did take a video. Live streamed it even.
You can live stream that, Periscope that.
So that's kind of neat, if you're in town that day. I'll try and let you know when it's happening. You might even be able to see it from your house, I don't know. And that was all I had. That's it for me.
Have you heard when they're gonna switch over to lanes out there on McDonald?
Oh,
It looks like they're done on one side.
yeah, they're just about ready. There's a full schedule, and there for a while it changed every day. I can't give you an exact date, but I'll find out and I'll let you guys know.
Will they have to keep the big trucks off that so the edges don't break off?
Yeah, the whole project, we've detoured trucks around.
Okay.
Yeah, so that'll stay in place. Yeah.
That is one?
Yeah, that's it, thanks.
All right, Lana?
I confirmed with Rod Foster at the Lexington Trails Middle School today that he and the band parents will be parking cars again this year for our 4th of July event. I have several vendors that will be back this year, and also the Good Sam Club band will be playing again this year. So things are shaping up, and hope everyone's got that on your calendar.
All right.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Next up, council and mayor comments. I guess I'll start with be my recommendation to hire Mike Brunhart as the city administrator, according to the contract that we've reviewed. So
We'll need just a motion on the appointment, or if it's the mayor's suggestion, then we'll do a separate motion to authorize the contract.
Can I make a motion? We appoint Mike Brunhart
Okay,
as
wait just a
city
second here.
administrator.
Okay, so we need, the mayor recommends and.
Approve.
Okay.
I approve the mayor. How's that?
You're approving the mayor's recommendation?
Motion. Yes.
Okay.
recommendation.
We had a second on that.
I second the motion.
We'll do a roll call.
Lane,
Yes.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes?
Murdock.
Yes.
Thank you, council, the motion carried.
Okay. Next, we need a motion to enter
Authorize
into agreement.
Make a
Authorize
motion,
the mayor
we
to sign.
authorize the mayor to sign the agreement with the municipal administrator.
You make a motion. Seconded.
Get that, Lennon?
Yeah, hold on just one second. Ready?
Okay.
Roll call.
I lost my train of
So
thought.
you get a
Need to
motion
call
and a
for it.
second.
Motion and second, is there any discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, roll call.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes?
Murdock.
Yes.
Thank you, council, the motion carried.
All right, well, welcome aboard.
Thank you, council. You'll get no,
Congratulations.
you'll get no arguments.
Are you gonna stay over there, Mike, or are you gonna move it?
Well, there's lots of things we have to consider along that vein. I really honestly, I think I've told you during the process, the discussions we've had, appreciate the opportunity. And just as a general personal philosophy, I like to under-promise and over-deliver. So you won't hear any grand speeches about all the great things that are gonna happen now. But I hope they do, so I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good.
Well,
Just take it back, guys,
thank you.
Yeah, it'll be effective once Mike signs it and the mayor signs it, so.
All right.
Do what?
I said
I'm
you better
gonna
get
go
the
to
ties
tomorrow.
out.
We got.
Mhm.
Ties.
He wears a tie
Fair
most
enough.
of the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Ties are coming.
Easy, hard.
As soon as you sign it, you're the man.
Okay.
That's what that is.
That's my last chance, huh? Here's two, I guess.
Oh. If we don't get it signed in the next day or two, then we can't come running up at you.
Well, in that case, here, just let me pass it over to you.
Let me review it thoroughly before.
You never know, Patrick may have slipped something.
I did slip a few things.
Well, yeah,
No.
thank you.
All right, next up, council comments. Start with Lori.
Other than, I'm really excited to have Mike on and excited to move forward and get some things happening here in DeSoto. I don't really have anything special right now, so.
Thank you.
Brett?
I guess before our next meeting, we think about maybe how we wanna go through these and, narrow the field on the potential council candidate.
I was wondering about the process on that. Can we do that, discuss an executive session?
No,
Okay.
yeah,
All right,
yeah, it's
yeah.
an open
Yeah.
conversation. Because they're not employees, we'll do that with employees, so. Or a candidate, but not, could be a candidate. To be an
Not for an
employee,
elected
not
position.
first. Yeah, that definitely this needs to be.
So,
Tim could individually talk to each one of us.
Sure.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
your own time, maybe in the next couple of weeks, you could probably talk to each one of us and kind of.
If we get
a feeling
narrowed
of
down a little
where,
bit.
You know,
Yeah.
you can get it, yeah, that would,
okay.
we
That
just
would
can't
be
discuss it.
take mayor's recommendations, kind of.
Well, or what the, I guess what our preferences might be or how the process might work. I mean, I'm, just from my perspective, I think it might be nice that if we got down to 3 or 4 people, that we let them come forward and present themselves, and then if anybody in the audience had questions they wanted to ask, let that happen, and, you know, maybe like a candidate forum almost, but they don't get a vote, you know, obviously wouldn't get a vote, but then it could help, involve the public in the process, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea.
But I think it'd be hard with, I think we have 8 here, I think that might be too big of a number to
Yeah.
manage, but
I'll do that, I'll try to talk to each one of them. Yeah. meantime, get an idea, maybe we can narrow it down a little bit, some thoughts. Okay? Anything else, Rick?
Nope. Thank you.
Danny?
I'd like to tell Mike that on behalf of the Baptist Church and give Jake Gavin and his crew,
Justin.
thank you, Justice, on the banner for down at the parks. They did a good job.
Good.
And getting those up for baseball season, so if you could pass that along to them, I'd appreciate
I will.
it. And also, thanks for the information, and congratulations to you, Mike.
Thank you,
And
Dan.
thanks for the information on the pipes.
Yeah, yeah.
And the pictures, I got those, so that's the only thing I got, but I was real happy to see that, and I'll be looking forward to hearing from you on the water tower stuff, because I'd like to document it with some photographs to give
Yeah.
to you,
Yeah.
free of charge, just
Thank you.
for documentation reason. Okay, that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Ron?
The only thing I have is back to the packets. You know, when I first got on council, everybody got a packet, hardly. Randy Johnson was the councilman, he thought that was a waste. I personally don't think it's a waste. I know you guys got computers, but it's just like tonight, he didn't have any more copies. He didn't have it. I just feel like everybody should get a hard copy now. That's just my opinion. That's all I got to say. So you guys can talk about it. I know you guys with computers, don't have a problem.
Well, I've got computers, but I don't have an internet
But this is
provider.
a
I'm
lot of
sorry,
paper.
I live too far outside of town.
The problem that we did, it's not a big problem, but I think it'd be totally fine because we run extra copies if, the problem comes in delivering all, you know, it does, because we usually have a water person, and that, you know, you're having a staff person run around and deliver packets, but I think, you know, if
If
Yeah,
they
you
have
guys
hard copies
wanted
and
to-
they know about, then they can come and
Right,
get it.
right, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good enough.
Could I have one more chance?
Sure.
Well, I just want to say thank you to Michael Press for helping us through this time and serving as our administrator, and I think you did an awesome job. And, you know, if this guy wasn't here, I'd have hired you on, but, you know,
Yes, I agree,
you know,
Mike.
he's
Thank
gonna,
you.
he's gonna do it. So thank you very much for everything you did for us.
I think he's done a good job, and it took him all this time to learn my name.
I think it's gonna go down in history. I'll put it on my tombstone. I forgot Ron's damn name.
Colby Walker.
Is that it?
That's it.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.